Hi everybody, happy Friday and welcome to the next episode of Learn with Lily Jack. Today we are going to do kind of a part 2 of our last episode, which we went over dimensions for lounge chairs, ottomans, and bar stools, counter stools, as well as dining and desk chairs. We did not cover every single thing. We covered a really good amount of information. It was a long video. So I wanted today to be a little bit shorter, and I really want to get everybody involved. I really would love for you to comment and to ask questions, things that you're curious about. No question is a silly question. I have still questions after over 30 something years of being in this business. I still learn something new almost every time I go through a piece of furniture. So please don't feel that your questions won't be answered, because today I want to actually answer a question that was sent in and commented on by Clark West Design. So thank you, Clark West Design, for commenting, and thank you for asking this specific question today, which is how I want to start with the dimensions of a sofa. So you asked for me to go over the relationship between an arm height and a seat height on a sofa and a lounge chair. So that's what I want to start off with today. I wanted to start off with this particular sofa that I have in my house, and I wanted to kind of walk through some of the overall dimensions and ideas behind what dimensions are important on a sofa. And then we'll definitely address Clark West Design's question on the relationship between an arm height and a seat height on sofas, sectionals, and banquettes, also on lounge chairs. So let's start, and here we go. Okay guys, so today we are gonna go over sofas, and in an effort to show you guys a couple of different options, this particular sofa not only has an arm, but also has some back and side cushions, and it's a little bit of a more of a low profile sofa. So I wanted to kind of go over this because, again, I'm at home, don't have a lot of options to show you, but what I have here. So this is a really good example of a typical sofa that we would find in a public area, in a lobby, even in a guest room. And so a lot of these things that we're going to talk about today also apply to chaise lounges. They apply to lounge chairs that are fully upholstered like this. And so hopefully this will give you some really good information that you can take with you. Okay, so for this particular sofa, we are looking at a standard, not a standard, really, a lower seat profile at about 16 inches. So 16 inches is not typical for public areas. Typically it sits a little bit higher, more like 18. I've seen some recently at about 17, but we usually don't recommend going much lower, because in a public area, in a hotel, in an area like that, sometimes you have some older people sitting in it, and it's hard for them to get out of the sofas that are a little bit lower. So you can see, just in relationship to me, this is not really typical. It's a little bit low, and when I sit down, I really kind of fall into it, which is super great for residential, but not typically the norm for hospitality. So a lot of the big brands out there, I don't want to mention any names, but a lot of the big brand hotels typically like their sofas to stay at a standard to the crown at 18 inches. And again, if you guys remember, finding that crown is taking a flat piece of wood or metal that can extend off the crown, and then you can measure your seat height from there. This one measures out to 16. Again, it's a lower than normal seat height, and 18 is the recommended standard. I wouldn't go probably any lower than 17 in a public area environment. So that's where the seat height comes in. The back height, in this case, the arm height and the back height are the same, because in this particular sofa, the back and the arm are equal. A lot of times in some of the other sofas that you see, the arm comes all the way back, and then it might be a little bit lower it might be a little bit higher. And then sometimes the back extends a little bit further than that. Now in this case, the arm height and the back height are the same, and those come out to the crown at 25.5. Now, for a back height of 25.5, that's a little short. We want to make sure that the guest or whoever's sitting in the sofa has plenty of back support, and there's lumbar there, as well as going all the way up to kind of your shoulder blades. And you can see that this is 25.5. It's pretty short. The distance that I get from the top of the cushion to the back is a little under 12 inches. That is probably the absolute minimum. If I push all the way back without the cushion and I lean back, I don't have support on my upper back here. I feel like if I'm sitting here for a long period of time, it feels a little short. It cuts me in about midway through my back, and that's just not super comfortable. So what we've done in this case, which you can actually see on this side, is we've extended the height of the back. So the back height is, tape measure. Again, I'm gonna get my piece of wood, and I'm gonna check the overall height in the same way that I do the seat height. So if we have 25.5 at the arm, you're looking at 32.5 at the overall height. I usually say 32 as a minimum is comfortable for an overall height on a sofa. Now remember, this is a shorter than normal seat height. This is 16. So it's the relationship between the seat height and the back height that gives you that comfort. So if in a standard height, I always say 32, and that's based on 18, this could possibly go down to 30 inches. You know, I have plenty of support in my back. I could go down an inch or two and still feel supported, but I have to tell you, this 32.5 is perfect. So now getting back to the question that was brought up from Clark West Designs, thanks again, is the arm height and the relationship between the arm height and the seat height. Now, for me, I have a very tall torso and a very tall upper body and shorter legs. So for me, I sit up a little bit higher. This is perfect. It could be an inch higher, it could be an inch lower, and I think I'd be good. So this is a 16-inch seat height, and this is 25.5. So you're talking about a 8.5, 9-inch difference in the two, and that feels really comfortable to me. Now, I also have the side pillow, which, ooh, jeez. When I add that back, maybe that'll be a blooper. When I add that back, I get a little higher arm height, and that's comfortable too. So if I take my wood piece and I measure off the top, I mean, really, it kind of bows down the middle, but I would say that that's 28.5. So it's 3 inches taller than this, but it's soft and it's cushiony, and because I've sat here before, it has this kind of natural indentation, which, you know, if I fluff it out and I turn it around, it's gonna sit up a little bit more. But when I can do this, it's comfortable. I don't know that I'd wanna sit up this high. That 25.5 is really nice. I think you could be at 25. I think you could probably be at 26. You might go a 1/2 inch lower one way or the other, but to me, this is super comfortable. Once you start to get really low, you're kind of reaching for it, and I feel like this is really perfect. Really, really nice. This is really a nice option on the side pillow because it just gives you that added bit of comfort. This has padding on the top. You know, we always make our upholstery to have a frame underneath, and we use a firm foam on the top so that if someone sits on it, or you know, you're pushing on it to get up, you don't feel the wood of the frame. So that's really important. But I think that this hopefully answered your question, the relationship between the two. Now, again, that 9 to 10 inches, I would say kind of a span between 8 and 10. 8 and 10 inches from your seat height. Now, the back height though, if we drop this lower and the back height gets lower, something happens that is really odd with the back cushion. And what happens is if you drop the arm height, the back height too low, you can get it where the cushion starts to kind of bend over. And the reason that is because it's lower, and as you lean against it, there's less area of support on the cushion from the back frame. So be very mindful that you need to have at least about a foot of support minimum at the back, but more than a foot if it's your overall height and that's what's supporting your back. You're going to need that, gosh, it's about, I think it's about, let's verify one more time, because last time I made a mistake, I spoke too fast. Yeah, it's about 18 inches above your seat height. So, you know, the rule of thumb, it's hard to ever say there's a true rule of thumb. There's a variance, and that variance and tolerance also depends on how soft your foam is on your seat cushion, what your feel is on your back cushion, what the fabric is, how it stretches, how it moves, and all of these things are factors. So it is important to work with someone that will have the ability to make those tweaks and be able to work through those things with you. But again, specifying arm heights and back heights, very important to be able to take those numbers that we talked about into consideration. The other thing is there's a lot of sofas that have a much taller profile on the side and in the back, on the arm height and the back height, because they're a higher profile sofa. Those are not used really to put your arm on or rest on. So those you more or less stay inside of the sofa, and it's not really intended for this type of use. But in this case, or any kind of lounge chair armrest, that 8 to 10 inches from the seat height is very, very important. So we want to briefly go over seat depths and overall depths, because in a sofa or in a lounge chair, that depth is super important for comfort, and it really can make or break a sofa, for sure. So we have a standard that we talk about when it comes to seat depths and in a hospitality setting. Obviously at home, you can add more throw pillows, you can have a super deep seat, and if you can take the depth in your space, you can absolutely play around with it. But after many, many years of having hundreds and hundreds of sit tests in our factories, we kind of come up with the top or the kind of the most popular selected seat depths. So for a sofa like this, for a sofa that's loungy, you know, you want to be able to get in and out of it easily, we recommend that a seat depth in front of the back cushion should range between 22 and 23 inches. So I did not check before this video, so let's see how close we come. Now, remember, this is for a residence, and it does have a much lower seat depth, but this particular sofa measures out at 23 inches. So I'm just gonna tell you, for me, at a little under 5'10", it's extremely comfortable. I sit back. It's actually, it could even be 22 and still be comfortable. It hits the back of my calf. I'm lounging back. I can, you know, rest and relax. 22 to 23, again, depending on the height, depending on your seat height, that will affect your seat depth. But I would say if you put 22 or 23 on your spec, you're safe. On a tight back sofa where you don't have a back cushion, we kind of use the same rule of thumb, but we go more 22 to 23, and we really watch the back pitch on a tight back sofa versus a loose cushion, because you're sitting directly against the back, and so you want to feel that comfort and that pitch, but you don't want to pitch too far back either. So it's really important to be able to mention your overall dimensions, mention your interior dimensions, and you can give us a percentage, or I'm sorry, a degree of pitch, and we'll use that as a guideline, but many factors, right? Seat heights, overall height, type of fabric, type of fill, that all kind of changes how it's gonna feel. The other thing is on the top, inside, back of the piece, you know, if it has a cushion, we want to ensure that there's a nice angle there and that you're not going to feel too straight up. Even in the case with this particular cushion that leans up against it, this is soft. It has a soft foam core and it has a channel envelope in it. So when you sit in it and when you lean back on it, you might feel something. So you just want to make sure that that pitch is correct and that it isn't too straight up. If it is, then we have to change what is inside of the back cushion to make sure that we account for the way it's gonna feel with more of a straight up frame. So maybe I'm getting into too much detail, but these are all things that kind of affect the sit. Overall depth is very, very important. I get a lot of specifications that show a very short overall depth of maybe 32 inches, but yet it'll have a picture of a piece like this with a back cushion in it. And if you're gonna be doing a seat depth of 20 to 23 inches, and then you're gonna be doing a back cushion that's gonna be anywhere between 6 to 10 inches, depending on the fill, you're already at 33 inches and you haven't even accounted for the back frame, you haven't accounted for the pitch, and you haven't accounted for the padding. So when we have back cushions, really your overall depth needs to be more like 36, 38 to 41, depending on the plushness of the look of the sofa and the back cushions and the back frame. So we can adjust things, we can thin things out a little bit, we can create the illusion, and hopefully gain a little inch here or there, or subtract an inch here or there depending on your footprint and your floor plan and what you have to work with. But overall depth definitely relates to all the things we talked about, whether it's a tight back or whether it's a loose cushion, what the fill is, what the look is, what the conceptual idea of the piece is, and all those things kind of take into account or need to be taken into account when you're specifying these dimensions. That I think is enough for today. I don't want to overdo it. Last time I went a little bit long. I do want to go into banquettes next time we talk. I have a banquette here. It's not completely typical. I have several banquettes in our factory in Inglewood, and I'm actually heading up there this week to check in on our team in LA. And so I think next week I'm gonna do our whole tutorial and our Learn with Lily Jack up in our factory, and I'm gonna go through several different banquettes so we can really get into depth on the details of that. And hope you had a good time today. Hope you learned a little bit on seat heights and arm heights and seat depths, and overall depths, and that it helps you write your specs and know what to look for moving forward. Everyone take care, stay safe and healthy, and enjoy your great Memorial weekend. Thanks.